Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome to The Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your host and your guide along the way. And today I am super excited to bring you a new, incredible artist onto the podcast, a new voice. It is Malin Nilsson, an extraordinary lady from Sweden, and I had the pleasure of working with her towards the end of last year at this beautiful little Victoria Theatre in Malmö, where she lives. And she has this tradition that's been going on for years, where she does a Christmas leading in November variety show. And I got to actually work together with her and also with Jay Gilligan in the same show, and it was so much fun. So we recorded these conversations a few months after when I was in Mad Apple with Cirque du Soleil in Las Vegas. But during the time that I was there with Jay, when he was rolling up all those balls that he uses, the Eva balls, the special ending that he has to his act, me and him recorded 5 episodes as well. So that was a few days of really intense joy for me. And I worked together with Malin. We couldn't quite remember now if it might have been like 2013 or something like that. We did a sort of street festival in it was actually first in Denmark and then in Sweden. It sort of moved across to a couple of towns, and in that on that festival, actually Tony Rook, the godfather of the Australian circus scene, he actually came. He was on that as well, but I had such a great impression of working together with Malin. Like, here is someone who is the real deal. This is like the listeners, long-term listeners and followers of The Way know about the idea of what folk circus is, which, by the way, I'm working on this thing to connect up, which will be one of these episodes with just me talking about the connection between folk circus and folk tales and fairy tales. But be that as it may, she is a folk circus master. So great. Like, she is so present with her audience. It is really impressive, as well as she's got magic chops, unlike on par with anyone. She is so great as a technical magician, but she has made so many shows and so many concepts. I mean, one thing that just blew my mind is that once this conversation was finished, she started to talk about something that I only vaguely knew about, what she did under the pandemic. And I had seen it a little bit from afar, as we see from people we admire and look at their feeds, and you see this, what they're interested in, what they do. But when she was talking about that, that's going to be a topic for one of our future conversations with Malin. She is a source of endless imagination and creativity in her acts, but also in the way that she presents each show and the scope of what she has done, which you will hear a little bit about today, and you will hear a little bit more about it in the next episode. But we are barely scratching the surface of what she has been doing, and her incredibly idiosyncratic and authentic voice in exploring magic as an art form. So, just before I give you Malin, I would like you to just go to wherever you're listening this right now and click 5 stars on the thing. It really does help. It makes it appear for more people who might be interested in this kind of stuff. And if you really, really want to do me a favor, then write some nice words as well when it suggests afterwards. When you click the 5 stars, you literally just click it, then you can write a few things that might just guide a few more people towards The Way. Well, thank you very much if you do that. And either way, here I am very excited to bring you Malin Nilsson. When the world is burning, literally or figuratively, do you question the validity of what we do, what you do? in the
Oh
perspective
yeah.
of that.
Yeah. I mean, I can, yeah, definitely, for sure. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I can question it even if there are not wars going on, but I'm wondering how important it is. And then I think, it can still be, yeah. I'm wondering if I should be doing something else. Something that it has a direct, concrete action to help the other people or other people in different countries and different situations at the moment. I just do not know what that is, because this is kind of the only thing I know how to do.
I am the same.
Does it make sense? Or
it makes complete sense. I'm the same. Like you think, what could I do? And there is a threshold for when everybody needs to join in. I think, countries, just to go to a neutral one, like the Second World War. There was I was going, well, the Norway was occupied by the Nazis. And then what would I have done in that situation? And one of the things that I've been thinking about is like, when you're reading books about the war, I think in my mind, I have it a little bit like people are, oh yeah. And then for those 5 years, everybody was just at war or occupied, and they were doing, that was the main thing that they did, but it wasn't. In a weird sense, some people were disappeared in the night. Some people were tortured, and there was terrible things going on. But the majority of the population were trying to put food on the table and making their lives work. And the cobbler was making shoes, and the bag maker was making that, and the farmer was doing, like, you still had to do those jobs. People couldn't all drop everything and then go in and do. So, like, and that's an aspect of the war that I kind of hadn't thought about, that the world still goes, and that is actually the main thing that's going on, even when it's all kind of happening.
But did they have this enormous source of information that the internet and television is today? Or did news traveled slower, and they had different sources of information? I feel like we know a lot today, and we know it instantly, and it's so strange for me to you read on a news site, and there is like something about the war or the wars going on, and then underneath there is something about the Olympics. And I go, how can these two things exist in the same time, within the same centimeters on a screen? I don't know how to handle that, because one thing feels like it's so incredibly important, and the other thing, yes, I know it's important because everything that makes people come together, like now I mentioned the Olympics, but it could also be art or performances or going to the museum. It's also important. But it just feels like one of these things are more important than the other. But then I also know that if we didn't have the culture and art and sports and all that, we didn't really have anything. We don't have anything to fight for. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. I think that is a really, really strong point in our favor. It's that we are the stuff that people engage with when they are given time to do with it what they want. Like, we are the choice that they make. They go and see shows, they listen to music, they watch TV, they watch a play, they read a book, they take in this stuff that is about the human condition and the things that makes us feel good. So although arguments can be made of what any specific war is about, one part of the phenomena of war is that they're fighting for our right to do those things, whatever each culture says about it. An interesting thought that is worth reading if you haven't read it. Do you know the writer Neil Postman? Yeah, he wrote that book called We Amuse Ourselves to Death, maybe in 84 or 86 or something. And in that book, he talks about the invention of the telegraph when that came to America. and talks very interesting, and he writes really well. And he talks about how when the telegraph comes into play, all of a sudden, there's an earth slide and an earthquake and a hurricane in places of the country of America that they might not have known until it was over before. So now catastrophe, pain, suffering, and you know it instantly to people that you don't know in places that you might not even know have existed. It's like, an earth slide in some county in a state that you hardly know. And so he says it gives a very peculiar sort of impotence of you know about suffering. And suffering of people that you don't know, and you care now on the human level, and it changes the focus, but it also makes it very difficult to actually do anything about it or understand the situation. So I can't remember all of the details. It's a long time since I read that book, but just to frame that thing, that there was a time, because there's basically what you said in your last thing, that we know about these things instantly, and we go like, what are we going to do?
And also but there is also another war that is a little bit, I don't know, it's that I think the war against the environment and the nature, and I'm thinking about it every time I fly, and I'm wondering, is this something I can do something about? You understand what I mean? I mean, is it? I travel the world, and so do you with our job. But would it be enough? If I stopped flying and traveling, or what is? How should I think about this? Or is? What shall I do? How shall I think about this? It's I think that's also complex.
It is. The comedian Stuart Goldsmith, he talks mainly about that stuff now. He used to talk about everything. I mean, he still probably talks about everything, but now he really is he is a stand-up comic, and his main theme is the environment and all the issues that we talk about. And I just thought of it now when you were saying it. It's almost like the material that he does and what he does offsets his carbon footprint. I don't know if that's like with the messages or the things that we say or do when we do get there. Is there stuff that we could do within our acts or whatever? I'm thinking Trent Henry Birdman he juggles plastic bags. I don't know if you know Birdman, and he talks sort of about plastic bags in the ocean and stuff in it, but in a way that it is so encapsulated into this absurdist thing. But all of a sudden, the absurd thing just gets flipped a little bit, and there's a little bit about it that you go, oh gosh, all of a sudden you change that into that dimension. Maybe we could do something like that. I don't know.
I don't know when. I mean, it cannot be enough until it's better, but I don't know what.
No.
Yeah. So when you ask me how I am, that is about how I am. But apart from Do you follow the news, or does it get to you? Or both. I mean, it can be both. It doesn't have to be one thing.
It is both, and I'm following it cursory. Like I read a couple of things, and I have a newspaper that I normally read the headlines on. It's kind of Australian or so then I get to know what's going on in Australia. But you also get a filtered version of the international news there. So I keep a finger, and according to my feed on my social media, I do apparently then stop and look at them, because they keep coming up from different news outlets that just comes up with stories, because you know how it responds to it. But of course, now that there's so much stuff going on about it, that I'm sure it must go into every single person's, even in this time when we are all in our own silos. Because normally my feed is only really show related or sumo wrestling. There's the things that
you got sumo wrestling.
I really have gotten very excited about sumo wrestling, and there's a tournament going on at the moment in Japan.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Amazing. Cool. If we're going to dive into the Nordenskjöld project, which is the political magic shows I made during a 10-year period, I like to think I want to have a little bit more reference material in front of me so I get all the names and the stuff right. But I'll be happy to, just talk briefly about it.
Yeah, we can talk generally. But of course, that was something that I didn't know so much about and that I've just been looking at a little bit over the last couple of days when I was looking at it. So that would be interesting. But maybe that's even a topic to itself, because it's interesting that you're collaborating with people who are working on their PhD when you made that program for them. Well, like you made that computer thing so that's a whole question in itself.
Because it feels like almost like chapters, The first challenge was like, can you create a magic show that lasts for 30 days in this gallery after the magician has left the room? Now we have to start to think, how do we do that?
That's super interesting.
So just this, like, it feels like a chapter, and another one was, can you make a show as a distraction while we are doing something else in the background? So we move all the people, you distract them with a magic show so we can do something else that they don't see. And then go, okay, what shall we do? It should all be about duplicating, because we're trying to duplicate something that we're not supposed to duplicate, and maybe or maybe not display the replica or the original. And so it was like, okay, so how do we handle that? But yeah. So yeah, it was it's been amazing 10 years, and to be a part of this project, it's but I've listened to your podcast a lot, and Niklas too, my partner. He's a teacher, and he teaches sound engineering for students. And he goes, I learned so much. It's so it's also a way for creative people in general. I feel, not just performers, but the whole episode about the shopkeeper, the coffee shop. No, what was his name? Who was also a pastor.
Hillman, who has a toy store that also sells coffee and all sorts of funny drinks and stuff. I loved those episodes. And I love that he reached out, and I loved to venture into other topics that I had never talked with before. And I would like to do that. In fact, I've had the idea for some time, but yesterday I saw this new Elvis movie that came out with him talking, and I am interested in the element of showmanship in music. So I wanted to make an episode starting by talking to Michelangelo. That would be the starting point of it, but maybe talk to a couple of different people about singing showman, kind of like people who are performers, and like it's basically like that the front man of a band is kind of like often the showman. Also, where when you saw Elvis, or you're thinking of maybe what's his core name, from Mick Jagger from Rolling Stones or something. People who are famous for not just, or like Freddie Mercury, somebody who goes on stage and just is connecting with the audience in a different way than a lot of bands who come on and don't wear a costume like they. Well, of course, anything that anyone wears in the show is their costume when you come on, but who go, I'm just happen to have this T-shirt on, and I'm looking at my feet when I'm playing the music. And then you have Freddie Mercury at the other end of the spectrum that comes out and works the Wembley Arena crowd like the best of the performers.
And looking at concerts, and I'm going to say looking at concerts now and not listening to concerts, has really helped me to create structures of magic shows. because
Wow.
growing up, I thought since magic is something you watch, it has to be connected to theater, something that you also watch. And so I felt like people asked me what the show was about, because it was magic on a theater stage, so they wanted to know, what is it about, what is the story. And I tried to find, the story, the red thread, the everything, because I got this question, and I mostly performed on theater stages my whole life. So it was and then just trying to understand a little bit more about concerts and how they are built. I realized that, like, magic shows, or for me, watching at a magic show, it's more the structure of a concert, and it's easier for me to think about shows as concerts rather than theater, because a concert also has these small little bits and pieces, like this is a ballad, and now it's fast, and now it's slow, and this is long, and this is short, and some talking in between, or some pictures in between, or something in between. And there's a beginning, and there's a middle, and then there's an end. And magic, it was almost like it was ugly to say, oh, is it just trick on trick on trick? Is your magic show just one trick after another? Like, that would be a bad thing. And today, 30 years later, I can say, yes, it is. It's a trick, and then it's a trick, and then it's another trick. And it's, just like there's a song, and then another song, and then another song. But within the song is a story. And the thing that keeps it all together is, as you said, the Freddie Mercury from Queens, or Leonard Cohen, or, and the theme they have decided for this record or concert. So that's how I feel about my magic. Nobody asked Leonard Cohen, what's the story of the show?
Isn't that interesting?
I did not mean to compare myself to Leonard Cohen at all. But and of course a show a concert can be about something. This is a concert about love, or a breakup, or the environment, or a war, or my life. But it's more like a little bit fuzzy in the edges.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. And this is so interesting, because I am also looking at it like that now, that I'm making more kind of acts, and I'm sort of more unapologetically making just acts that are necessary for the show. It's like, well, I need this, and I need that. I need a kid to come up. I need to have given somebody a balloon before this other trick, because when I then give them this soap bubble thing in the end, that's a reference. So I have just made a new act now that I'm premiering on Sunday. I'm doing this gig that Matt King is organizing here. So I'm doing a family show during the day. And anyway, then I'm doing these new acts and working on them. I have really thought of this like the music as well, where you have some of the tricks that we need this, and it needs to have this kind of flavor, because you're shaping a concert. I'm about to do some shows in Norway in kind of concert houses, and I'm doing a 45-50 minute show for family audiences. And I'm looking at the show that I have, which is I'm taking what I had as a school show and adding to it, so that it goes from the school hour to the cinema, the stage hour, or whatever. And I really have been thinking about it a bit like music. And then you make these songs, and sometimes when you first start, I think they're just the best tricks that you have, or the band often do, like, you have the best songs that you've just made, and that's the first sort of exploration, and you go, oh, this is the sonic universe that they create, or this is the visual universe of you, for instance, when you're doing your shows. Like, these are the themes that you deal with, but then you develop them, and then every now and then you make a concept album where all songs are like The Wall or whatever, where each song is part of a really quite direct story or whatever. And other times they're just loose, but other times it's like, I've been looking at Bob Dylan a little bit. So I'm like, his music is not what speaks most to me, but as an artist, he is just so interesting. All the stuff, because he's great at this thing of doing a few albums where you have a career, like where he started. You have a career that you could have been the prophet of a generation, and then that generation moves on and you would be nothing. But he went against the grain and went electric like that point, and then he found Jesus, and then he had terrible things happening with his life, and all these things are reflected in the albums as he goes, like when you look at his life, how it parallels into his music. So have you got some cool examples of how, or when life events or themes that you're interested in moves into your creations?
This was a very, very good question. I think I've just been growing and not so much. I don't really like the word reinventing, because that's not what I think I've done. I think I've just been growing and growing. I have to think now.
Yeah. I mean, even just having this idea, can I offset my flying? Can I do something? Now that's a theme that now is available to you, and something that you're thinking about, and I'm thinking about. What's the relevance of offering escapism and just a really good reset, good time during a time when the world is burning? Yeah. And I see value in that, and thinking about them, it already frames what I do a little bit.
No, for sure. I see what I do. I do remember a very, very long time ago. I think it was like 2007. I produced a show, and I brought in some material, what I felt like for safety. Okay, this is material that I've learned from this book, and it's written by this person, and it's if I follow this description, it will be great. It sounds great. It is great. I perform it, and I had a couple of these pieces. I think 2 or 3 pieces, just because it made me feel safe, because it wasn't my own. And I played a whole season with this material, and it was a material that I found out worked not the best for me. And it was kind of a realization to go, oh, my stuff works. My own stuff works. And I could cut one piece, and then I dared to cut another piece, and then I dared to cut another piece. And then I could look back at this full evening magic show and go, shit, did I do this? And it was... I'm not sure if this is a life event you're talking about, but I remember feeling I was, can I say, secretly proud over what I had done, but very exhausted. So yeah, and not everything was good. Of course, there was some terrible ideas. I did a watch steal with a goat. That was a very expensive trick that never became funny, and it was like a 12-minute piece. But a
real goat.
Yeah, I had a real goat. It's so the idea was to shall I even talk about this? It's a terrible idea. Maybe you can find a way to make it funny. I never found a way to make it funny. And my problem is always that I try to make something both a real magical act, but also a real comedy act. Yeah. Not so. And what happens is that everything becomes a little bit in between. It's not really funny, it's not really magical. But the idea was to bring a goat on stage to try to find a card that was completely lost some 10 minutes ago. And this goat had really nice fancy horns on it, and then it would just hang around on stage. So and it's not like a pretty little circus goat, but a real farm goat. So she was hanging out on stage, and then I brought the man up, or a lady up, or a person up on stage to do another trick. And as an encore to that trick, I wanted to give the person a gift. And they opened the gift, and in there are the horns of the goat, and on the goat there is a watch. So it was a very elaborate and really like a watch steal. So the idea was that I've taken the horns of the goat and the watch from the person, and then I mixed them up in the switch. So there was too much layering going on. But
the too much layering, meaning that the audience didn't quite understand what was going on, or didn't get enough of a reaction compared to how complex it was, or
all of it. I wasn't sure. I knew what was going on. I don't think my coworkers knew what was going on. They just went along with it because they you know, I sometimes I feel very strongly for an idea, and yeah. So we were 4 people in the ensemble and 1 goat trainer for this trick. Yeah. I don't.
That's amazing. It's also, I read in a book. I think a book was called "When Vaudeville Was King" or something like that.
Mm.
And there's someone. It was just a quote. Oh, I think that's where it comes. Anyway, just quote going like, if when we're at distractions like this, if a woman in a bathing suit comes on stage, this is no time for subtlety. So then just go straight to your song and dance number. Like it's good with big distractions. And a goat is a little bit like a woman in a bathing suit. Somebody comes, if you bring a goat on stage, it's almost like people, I would imagine, having seen you and thinking that when you bring a goat on stage, that is such an overpowering thing. A big farm goat is on stage, it will disturb the image so much that it would probably need a very strong clarity for you to understand the effect, because it's so weird to bring on a goat. Like I would be shocked in the most best of ways, because the idea is awesome to have a goat on stage.
Well, it was I don't specifically work with animals, and I don't think I would do it today. But in this countryside theater, in this setting, I and also I could put an ad in the paper, and magician seeks goat. It could be a whole thing, whole event, and I could interact with the public around the theater, and ask if anybody. But then I found a person who actually trains animals for movies and theater. And she said, when I talked to her, she said, no, you can't just rent an animal. You can't just rent a goat. You have to come here and you have to visit Agatha, which was the name of the goat. And if she likes you, then we can work together. So she had her own, it was like a pet for her, like a dog. So I went to audition for the goat, and the goat approved of me. And then she agreed to train the goat to wear the fake goat horns.
So it wasn't even the goat's real horns?
No, of course not. Then I can't steal them. It had to be, yeah. And then she came to every show with this amazing animal that became friends of the whole ensemble, and no problem. It all felt like really nice and friendly. It was a house goat, almost like a dog.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, but I don't. This is not a trick I would do. I mean, we're talking a really, really long time ago. Yeah.
But it is super fascinating as well, because it's a great example of when you have an idea that goes really far and you're just pursuing it. And once you as it always is, you have an idea and you start investing in it with time and effort. And then it can be really hard to let go of as well. Like you go through a lot of stuff and then you just go, this doesn't, for some reason, this whole bit that was maybe part of why you did it in the first place, that the key bit of it, the goat is the bit that isn't working. Maybe the watch steel is actually stronger on its own, that you're gilding the lily, so to speak. Where
were you back then?
In 2007, 2008.
I would have needed your insight. Yeah, I'm not really sure I would have listened though. But I
don't know if back then I had the insights to share either.
Yeah. The whole idea was that we had there was a card lost, and for a magician it's very important to find the right card. So I had different ways throughout the show to not to actually find the card of the lost card, but I wanted to convince a person who had taken the card that I can't really not convince, but I wanted them to agree in some way that that the card that was going to be produced next was their card. So I wanted a lie. If they would lie for me, I would stop my desperate attempts to find their cards. So there was everything from the cutest little 4-year-old child coming up from a ladder from under the stage to smoke and light, bringing out the card and going, "So, Kevin, is this your card?" And then this very honest person in the audience would go, "No." And then the whole audience would go, "Oh."
So it was almost like a running gag or so, that you're doing, the show is going on, and this thread of finding that card was like the red thread that went through the show, or?
Yeah, or trying to get this person to agree that at least one card would be their card so we could stop it. So it wasn't really about the right card. And at one point I brought in the goat because, we don't know anymore what this person will, So, So it was, so this was a part of, the goat's part was to come in and find a card. And then it just was on stage for the next bit. And it's just one of all the terrible ideas that has been worked. Yeah.
But it is so interesting, though. It's also when you say on, and there was a little girl that came up through the floor with smoke and light and brings out the card. Then the goat, to me anyway, all of a sudden makes all that much more sense now that you've shaped that out. Because you've thought something through where it starts with you doing, I don't know, but I'm guessing that it's all you give the feeling that you've genuinely lost the card. That's the feeling that, and then you probably tried a few times in the first bit where the card has been selected and you can't find it, so you're just dealing with that kind of failure. And then by the time the girl comes up from the floor, now we all know that, okay, this is now a real big thing, and you play it off as, well, we don't need to be the right one. We just need you to agree. And but everybody knows now that now you actually do have to find it, because everything is about that now. And then how do you escalate that? So it's a beautiful idea of how it then escalates it up.
There might have been some nudity and a biker on a Harley Davidson as well.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and this was a real biker from a friendly gang, from a friendly. Yeah.
A nude biker?
No, not nude. Two separate occasions.
Your powers of persuasion impresses me quite a lot.
No, I wish that would have been an image. No. Yeah, but it was kind of, I mean, I like when the magic and the pictures go beyond the stage. So when I started to look for a biker, I wanted to have a really cool motorbike, and I also wanted to him to look the part as a biker would do in a Hollywood movie. So I got in touch with some people, and then I talked to a person here around my hometown, and he went like, yeah, we do these sort of things all the time. And I go, yeah, we were in a commercial not so long ago. And then he sent me a picture of from IKEA where him and his a child is making ginger cookies with like a skull-shaped gingerbread cookies. So I thought, okay, this is safe.
Right. And it's like, when you have such a strong look like that, it's in the region where I am from, there's a bunch of people who do, it's not quite role playing, but that do Viking themed stuff. And there's people with certain look that just gets booked. You see it if you watch Vikings, and there's some Norwegian shows and Game of Thrones, and there's some of those people who just look like that. Like so you become a character actor, and if there's a Swedish person that really looks like a biker, but that also is really nice and can interact in this way, then that there's a role for them as a sort of character actor in plays and in acting. Yeah. Doesn't surprise me.
This is not the this is.
But it surprises me
this.
that you find them. That's what's so awesome.
Oh, yeah.
You have an idea, and then you find a goat and a biker and a 4-year-old child, and then you put them in. What the show that you did, was it then part of a season or?
Yeah, it was part. It was part of a. It was a part of a season. We're now 2007. I just wanted to say that. But my point with the biker was that. So his name was Lasse, and he came with the whole gang, the whole group, to see the premiere. So at the premiere, when there was also some press and some people, there were 40 Harley Davidson in the parking lot, and this is amazing for a countryside theater. It's such a nice sight. You feel like something is going on, but you don't know what. But already in the parking lot, and this was something I couldn't imagine or see in front of me. But it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So
it's super nice. It's so awesome. Mm-hmm. Some of these gigs that you do, and a little bit in the countryside, and you got people, and then you deliver a show of like. It's so interesting that you are doing that in the countryside theater. Where I'm like, this is the stuff that is like only at a fringe festival where you get the weird and the strange and all that. That sort of stuff is almost expected that somebody is doing those kinds of shows or exploring the limits of what performance can be. But there you are in a country town. But I'm also, and that just blows my mind in the best of ways. But that brings us a little bit to where you started, because you did a lot of shows in that theater because you had a very, and so then you have two things. One, like, why are you doing it every year, shows in the theater in the middle of nowhere? Like, why are you doing that? And then that's why also you have escalated into this stage where you have people on Harley Davidson and kids and all this sort of stuff. So like it's a natural evolution of it. But that brings us also back to like, why were you doing several shows over the years in that one theater?
It's all thanks to my father, actually. He helped rebuilding an old barn into a theater, and this theater had a big room with like 250 seats, and then there was a black box with about 150, and then there was a restaurant with a more like a stage that was perfect for storytelling and poetry and maybe some jazz music, like smaller events. So the theater housed the 3 different stages, and it's a part of Sweden where you get tourists and you get people who come during the summertime. So the summer season was June, July, and half of August. And my father was building. He was a carpenter, and he was an artist, and he was building things. He built the stage sets, and also, I still use the magic one that he's not around anymore. He died 2015, but I still use some of the things today in my shows that he had made. And I started working there by just, as a summer job as a kid. I was cleaning the toilet, and I was sweeping the stage, and I was hanging out with the people that passed through. And to me, it was I never felt the urge to be an actor or be on stage and do something like they were doing amazing things, but I didn't feel the connection to it. I felt the connection to the stage, and I felt the connection to the magic. And my father was an amateur magician, so the magic was all around the kids when we grew up, at home mostly, and then eventually at the theater. So I was just all around the theater doing everything during my childhood and teenage years. It was the thing that fascinated me was the things I get to see that nobody else got to see. I got to see the big sheets of fabric and paper laying on the floor in a random room that the scenographer was painting. I did see the half-finished stage sets and I saw people working, month and month and month for something that was just supposed to be 1.5 hour long. And this, I know it sounds pretentious, but it doesn't make it less true. This whole process was just astonishing to me, and I felt like I was let in on a secret. The making of. I saw, And then I saw the nervous actors, backstage, and then they were super cool and did their thing on stage. And I just felt like I was let in on a secret and in a secret world. And this was just amazing to me. So I want to be at a theater. And when I think about work and a job, I mean, today, now, I didn't know I was thinking about it back then, but I probably was in some strange way. I think about what place do I like to spend time in. There are rooms and buildings and houses and places I don't want to spend time in. And that is, for example, a hospital. So even if the nicest thing I can think about being would be like a doctor or a children's doctor, something like that, I do not want to be in a hospital. But I love museums and I love art galleries and I absolutely love theaters, and I don't care if they don't have windows. Does it make sense that the place where I thrive is, backstage and also on stage, of course, but yeah, I like seeing you unpack your stuff. And, when we were working with Jay Gillian just a few months ago, and he opens his bags and the bags looks amazing. And I feel like, wow, we should take a picture and hang it in a gallery, because this is art also, but it's just for us who are backstage. We're so, I can't really describe it in words, but it's yeah. So all the things that takes to prepare the few minutes we do on stage is amazing to me still today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. Absolutely love that as well, which is why we connect so strongly. And those people like Nick DeFat as well, who care so much about all those things, that he owns the suitcase of the stuff from Tom Mullica, and he owns props that other magicians have used that was influential on him, or that he's interested in the thinking of them or whatever. I find that kind of passion for the craft. I love that. And it's so interesting that for you, it started out with your father actually building a theater, because then you get to see, and I love that you saw actors or musicians or poetry readings, like this sort of stuff would then be going on when you were a child, and that you could see that all of those things are interesting and connected to the magic of this theater, which is so it seems to me almost allegorical, that we have the big room where you have big shows, and then you have a smaller room where other things are possible because it's smaller and it's a black box setup. And then the fact that you then have a place as well out in the cafe, which is a much more informal, and each one of those affords a different kind of mode of performance. Somehow, if you put it on a 250-seater stage, and you're having an open mic night for people who are reading their texts or poetry or whatever, then different expectations sort of come by the size of it. But because it's in a cafe, so you were in this very rich environment. And just maybe say a couple of things about just the town and where this is, because you're obviously talking about the kind of school holiday time of it.
We're in the very, very south of Sweden, and it's this village where I grew up is called Skillinge, and it's an old fishing village, really. And I'm guessing now, I think we're talking about 800 people living there. And if you stand in the harbor and you look out, you see all the fishing boats and the small fishing boats. And if it's a clear day, you can see Bornholm, which is an island from Denmark straight ahead of you. And if you could see right through that, you would probably, I think Poland on the other side. Or Germany, somewhere in between. So it's a very south of Sweden, and it's also a beautiful area. So people from all over Sweden and Germany and Denmark, they come here and they make holiday. And this is where the actors who started the theater had this idea: we should have a theater that played the classics. It's also important. It was like we want to make a production every year that is a classic theater play. So it was Shakespeare and Chekhov and then also some alternative programs, and then that's when the variety came in, and some music and something like this. But so there was not so many people living around the year. But nowadays there's a really famous theater in this small fishing village, so it's easy to involve the locals. And I think you come maybe from the same kind of place as I do.
Similar,
But if something happens, people know about it. And there's one local paper, not in a busy city where there is many. So if you talk to the local paper, then
people
if they write something, everybody will know it. So it just felt also like an easier time. It's a little bit different now, but it's 25 years later. So of course it's different.
Yeah.
But since I was practicing magic and doing little shows around this area, I got the request to do one piece for an evening soirée where there was a mix. There was music and there was some poetry and there was some little bit of everything. And this was a really big thing for me because it was a first performance on a real theater stage. And I worked really hard with this, I think, rope trick. I can't really remember. And the next year I did 2 pieces, and the year after I did a little bit more. And so it just grew. And then when I got the request to do a family program, I just jumped on it, and I created an hour. And then suddenly a few years later, I did the evening program, and I involved other people, musicians, a light designer, and yeah. And
so how old were you when you did that, when you were asked to do the first trick, and how old were you when you were asked to do the first 1 hour show?
Oh, now I have to think about how old I am today.
Yeah.
I think 14.
Wow.
14, 15. Yeah, something like that. 15, I think. I turned 45 this year. Yeah, and I've been working professionally for 25 years, I think. 2001 or 26. I can't remember. Wow. You see, I have had the fortune to have very supportive parents, and I recognize it because I know not everybody in our industry has had that. We all know and have close friends that had to really fight for being an artist or working with culture, or and even have the family try to stop them and so-called get a real job and all that. So I'm really fortunate to have a mother that said, yeah, sure, of course you can start a company. It's not so difficult. Let's do it tomorrow, because she was working with economy and numbers and these things. It wasn't so strange for her. And a father who drove me around to my gigs and built props for me. So it's been
so great.
They were my biggest, what do you call it? Like cheerleaders.
Yeah, cheerleaders and also collaborators as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when, so you mentioned earlier that your dad was an amateur magician. Do you have like an image of like the first times when he did magic, or at least did a magic in such a way that you went, this is what I'm interested in?
No, I don't really have an image of that. I just had an image of that. It was really annoying and a little bit embarrassing to bring home friends, because my dad probably wanted to show them a trick or something. And he wasn't really a performer. He liked to collect things, and this was, of course, before the internet. You couldn't order things online like you could do today. You had this physical catalogs from Tannen's Magic or and you had to really think about it. And, yeah. And from
Yeah,
around
because there was
Scandinavia as well.
back then there was quite a few. What was
Yeah.
that guy called that was in Bromölla? There was a
Bernardo's Magic, of course.
Fernando's Magic
Yeah.
and El Duco, of course, which
Yes,
I just bought one. Oh, I bought my second one of his reels. They've started, this guy, I can't remember his name, has started to re-release his reels.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Very, very good craftsmanship. And anyway, so there was a strong kind of magic shop community. And Guy Lundberg had Gycklar, and they also sold magic, and he produced a bunch of stuff. Still does.
Still does, yeah. Yeah, so that was all around me, and I think also, my dad built some illusions in his spare time, and he went around to conventions, and he always came home with something, like they do. But I do remember the performances of his friend and where he got his inspiration from, which is a man called Paul, and he lived in this fishing village in Skillinge, and Paul was. This story will ring. What do you call it? It will ring bells. He was a watchmaker. So he was a local watchmaker, Paul, and he was also, of course, a magician. And we would watch him at the children parties when it was our birthdays, and this is where my dad got the inspiration from to yeah.
This is just it is just so uncanny because my father is an amateur magician, and I got my start with him, and his interest rubbed up on me. But his teacher, the one that got him into magic, was his great uncle. So I don't know what that makes it. It's like the brother of his something, doesn't matter. And he competed in FISM, and he did mainly manipulation and stuff. And his name was Sartini.
Oh, yeah.
And Sartini, he took that name because of the watch Satina.
No, okay, yeah.
Because Alf M. Olsen, he was a watchmaker. And he made watches and had a watch store in the main street of hometown. But his passion was magic. I mean, he loved watchmaking. But so that's just so weird that your dad's inspiration, Paul, also is that same thing. It's just some levels of coincidences here, or is it?
Or is it? Or maybe it also gives us a little signal about how difficult magic is, that you need these super skills to create some things.
Yeah.
Some of the things from that time that I look at today, the mechanics and how they are made, it's like,
oh yeah. I mean, I was speaking of El Duco's reel. I like when I bought that, it comes with like it always does when you buy it, it comes with a video thing of it, and he's talking about it, and my lord, that was already a good reel. And then the way that this dude has, I should really remember his name and put it in the show notes, but like the way that the amount of work that goes into making these little things. I mean, our friend Charlie Caper has done some real work on making reels. Like, holy moly, the level of work that goes into these things. And also it makes me think of Mike Cavaney as well in his book, where he talks about making his contraptions that he uses for his chicken and cutlery and whatever craziness that comes out. And it all looks totally crazy, but then when you look at the heart of it, what makes this seeming madness happen that produces a chicken and all this sort of stuff, and then you look at these crafted things out of brass and stuff, like it is just so incredible. I can't believe the coincidences of how our paths were similar with magic enthusiast fathers, including the next generation being a watchmaker. Incredible. Those kinds of synchronicities are really, really fascinating when that happens. So many great things already coming up here, and I was wondering whether I was going to leave in this bit where she basically says we can't talk about all of the or she wants to have more details in front of her if she wants to talk about all this the political magic shows and all that she does, but I just left it in because I thought it was such a wonderful teaser, even in just saying, well, maybe we should talk about this in another chapter, as a whole chapter in itself. But I thought it was such a great tease of what it was that she had actually done with that work. And I thought that we'll leave that there for you to get excited about. And if you want us to continue that conversation, why not drop me an email? Send it at thewayoftheshowman@gmail.com. And again, if you want to know when each episode comes out, why not follow and subscribe to the podcast. I mean, it really is the thing that makes me most kind of excited when I see that I drop the episode and I see that it is connected with all these people that are listeners. So if not for yourself, then for me. You don't have it that it needs to download so that you have a hard copy on your phone in case you're on a plane and realize you haven't downloaded a movie to watch. But if you just click it so that it gets registered, that it's sent to your box, it makes me so happy. So until next time, take care of yourself and those you love, and I hope to see you along the way.